just a wandering nomad out on the interstate. Eventually all these roads just end up looking the same. And now it's time for another episode of Relative Road.
Hey everybody. Let me just say that that song always chills me out. And that's probably has a lot more to do with Mike, but what a song. Anyway. As we're recording this is the day before the election, and I wanted to get on the mic with Mike and talk about this moment because we're on the eve of probably the biggest day of the most eventful year of everyone's life. I mean, in living memory. And, you know, there's some importance there, but I think it's important that we lighten up as well. We need to, we all need to chill out. Like, everyone's, if you haven't voted already, you're going to vote tomorrow or you're not going to vote at all. And I don't care. I don't care about any of that stuff anymore. What's done is done, and what's going to happen is going to happen. What I'm more concerned with is how we're going to fix everything moving forward. And, you know, we can talk about our hopes and desires and things like that for the days and weeks and months and years to come. But the most important thing to me is reconnecting. And getting to the place where we're not going from 0 to fuck you in 5 seconds. It's worn on me over the last 4 years. And you know, I've been part of it, and I've come around and spoken out against it, and you know, yeah, we still have steam that we need to let off sometimes. But anyway. So let's start off. Mike, have you voted? Do you plan on voting? Is that your thing?
So, short answer or medium answer?
Whichever answer you're comfortable with.
Okay. I have come to terms with many things in the controversial arena.
Right.
And that is always where it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's always controversial. And those types of things, you know, there are sort of rules that we all kind of know and have heard in terms of how it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you get into those conversations, it's a dangerous territory.
Yeah.
In some respects. So, that being said, I have felt compelled to keep it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Who I envision as a good president,
mm-hmm.
My overall general opinion of American politics,
mm-hmm.
you know, it's kind of like any existential belief system.
Right.
You pick and choose what seems to work for you in the life you live. I think that voting goes beyond the booth and the checkbox.
Mm-hmm.
I think voting is in how you live your life, where you spend your money, who you're in relationships with,
mm-hmm.
and how you govern your home. I think those are ways that you cast your vote.
Right.
And it kind of ended on a positive note. I think that when you are invested in politics,
mm-hmm.
I think it should be directly in and with your community.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you should elect the people who support the presidency or the campaigns that maybe seem a little more close to home for the individual.
Absolutely.
But I don't do enough community service. I'm not as involved in my kids' school as maybe I might, get more education from in terms of politics. But yeah, Reg, I think it's too dangerous of a time to admit outright to people who I'm voting for and if I'm voting. I'm still learning,
And that's a really good point. It brings up the problem of identity politics that has sprung up over the last hell, 10 years. It used to be you kept your vote to yourself. It used to be that was the thing. People didn't butt into your personal politics. But now that seems to be the trade of social media. Is everyone has to hey, what's your take? What's your take? You need to state your take. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I don't need to say shit.
Yeah.
I
think people are becoming their digital personalities in real time.
Yeah, and
they really do.
That's dangerous because a lot of people, and again, no judgment here. A lot of people use social media to expel a lot of their own toxicities. They see that as a healthy outlet for that stuff.
And honestly, like I think I used to feel very different about this, but I feel like now at this point, I feel like if that's a part of what makes you feel safe in the world, then you should do that. If you're compelled to do it because it makes you feel connected to a community, that's a good thing. So, your thoughts and how positive or negative they are, that's really your own experience. What you're going through could be something terrible and negative to me, but could be life-changing in a better way for you.
Right.
So, and this stuff is always evolving. Like, there's no real point in having any set judgment on any fucking thing in this reality.
Right.
Everything, even science is always like, hey, microwaves are fine. Don't worry about it. It's just fucking sound waves.
And then 50 years later, oh, yeah, you know what? Don't stand so close to those.
Listen, not all of us are supposed to have a third eye, but you're really getting one there, pal. Yeah, so I think it's just too unevolved in communication to linger in a conversation with no real certainty. And maybe most conversations are like that, so be it. But I really like jumping into things more relative to what I'm doing now.
Right.
That seems to be the healthier choice in terms of conversations.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody, I voted early. I did the mail-in voting thing and dropped the ballots off, and they were counted. We made sure they got in. And that's one reason I'm not too worried. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I'm not worried about the next few weeks. I think what is the best thing to happen for society, for our country, for whatever, I think that's what's going to play out, because I have to. I have to be optimistic about it. I really think that 2020 was the year that everything kind of came to a head.
What do you mean by that? What came to a head? Like in your own personal perspective? Because I agree, but
with the concept of society is this always evolving thing, always emerging, always changing. There are trends and things like that happen. So you can say that the 20th century, at the beginning of the 20th century, a lot of poets and writers were talking about a quickening. Society, everything was going faster, and they saw like, hey, this might be a problem. I don't think people are ready for the speed at which society is starting to move in the 20th century. And so we had the 20th century of, one war, one major world war, and then a little break where things went to even more shit, and then another major world war that ended in an atomic blast. And then you have, so every generation that was there and every generation after that was raised with this baseline anxiety of, we have the power to annihilate our own species, and it could happen at any moment.
Well, so here's, I think, to add to what's upside down, right?
Yeah.
What's changed? Culture. The idea of culture. It's an ideology that really just fucking keeps us at bay. And truth is, the reason why we relate is because we all consume.
Right.
We all, survive off the land. The flavors of our palate are really much more complex in terms of communication than people really really want
yeah.
to talk about on a normal basis, because it's, we're not all fucking scientists trying to understand every fucking word for what it, where it came from. But I think that you're right. Like, technology set us off on a sort of an expedited future. And the evolution of our biology is something that has reminded us that there's some happy medium here that if we were to shift focus onto would be the best benefit for humanity.
Right.
Somewhere between technology and its benefits and who it's best used for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because Kanye had said in that Joe Rogan podcast, how much does the earth cost? That was a good question, right? Then you start to think, like, what the fuck is money anyways? And why is it that we have a system where people are living in the streets, gone haywire in their mind? And to think that some of the foundational ideologies we have growing up is you have all the potential. Everybody matters.
Right.
Caring and sharing and all these, these righteous ways of a human being to grow up, and then what? You become conservative and say, well, you can't fucking get your shit together. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? You go
Right.
against the grain in some way, and then you have this moral dilemma that you got to live with, that you feel fucking shitty, that you can't do anything. And people don't know until they're in the situation with somebody who they love and care about, but can't support.
Yeah.
Until you're in that situation, you don't really fucking know, what's happening in society, in the psychosis of money, technology, politics.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main driver. I think the main driver of human anxiety, other than what I said earlier about a baseline anxiety of we have the power to destroy ourselves and we can do it at any time, is the, hey, from birth you're told you have such potential, you could be whatever you want. You can do this or that, you can do whatever. All you need to do is apply yourself and this and that. But, life gets in the way, and people rarely achieve what they feel is their ultimate potential. And so you're left with second guessing yourself and second guessing life choices and things like that. And that brings a lot of anxiety. And what is it? It's just this thing that's just like the American dream. Society says you need to do this, you need to do that. So what about those of us who've made it to almost 40 and not married yet, don't own a house yet, own a car, have pets, but probably not going to have kids. And does that mean that we've failed in some way to society?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think everyone has their own thing to do, and like to let what somebody else says is what you should do be the thing that causes anxiety and stress. I think that's unfortunate, and that's kind of bullshit.
The sad story is that we're trying to avoid manipulation. I mean, whether it's coming from our work life, our home life, our hobbies,
right.
We're trying to avoid manipulation because that's just what the world is made of. It's this never ending, like, desire to consume you.
Right.
And, we walk around recruiting people for corporations that we don't have any business being a part of.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, like the hypnotic nature of marketing.
Okay.
And then when you hear people talk, we're getting to the point where a lot of the jargon's the same. And whether it comes from you or a screen, it's the same fucking thing that I wish I could just swipe past. And that's where the attitude comes in. People don't realize that their agenda is being fueled by a screen.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, I get you've been stuck indoors. I get that your only connection to the world, or perceivably only connection to the world, is through the fucking technology that we're all bitching about. But the truth is, like, what about today is going to make tomorrow better for you? In its simplest form, in a healthy manner of speaking. Like, what about today is going to make you feel better about yourself tomorrow? And you can confuse this with with progression in society or progression just in your own evolution. Both require sacrifice and diligence, discipline, sweat.
Yeah. And on that, I think for me, it's about, what about today can make me feel better tomorrow? And I think it's all about what I do with the day.
Yeah.
If I, you're doing woodworking projects, so you'll feel good tomorrow about what you've done today because like you've been obsessed with it. So it's like, oh yes, I did the thing.
Yeah.
For me, it is also following those creative obsessions.
Yeah.
Because I have the privilege to do that, I need to take advantage of that privilege
Sure.
and get that done. So,
But why?
because it makes me feel better about myself. It makes me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile, if not financially, then culturally or for society.
So what's tricky is that you were given sort of a blueprint to progress towards goals, personal or otherwise. And this is a blueprint that, it kind of has made sense in the entire world up until now, maybe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Certain aspects of it. But it's like this, right? We can't look at history and just like disregard all the shit that we don't like to look at.
Right.
We have to respect that was us at some point, but is no longer the case.
Yes, we're evolving. We're constantly changing.
Right. And if you're anchored in time, somewhere in the past, by some painful memory or some traumatic event, if you're anchored in time that way, and all the things you reference around you all have to do with what happened back then.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this in a way that anybody should feel like shit because of this, but it's a truth about reality that has to be, you have to look at it like, oh, that's right. I kind of got fucked over, and that's been my worldview.
Yeah, and that even applies to nostalgia. Even the good, like if you spend too much time in the happy past,
Yes,
that's also
point.
detrimental to yourself. I was thinking about that the other day. I was playing some 80s playlist on Spotify, went for a walk, and found myself just thinking about a certain time. I was thinking about all the fun drinking after shoots. But what my mind was going to this time was all the negative stuff, which I rarely think about because it doesn't come to mind. But it's like, oh yeah, we drank way too much. And oh yeah, some people had a bad time and there was some fighting going on. And like, why does 80s music take me to that? It's supposed to be happy fun time. But I think what's changed is my opinion of the 80s has changed.
Sure.
Like as we get farther from it, and we're now 30 years away from it,
Yeah.
and it was my childhood, it was our childhood, and we spend so much time looking at that era with, yay, happy childhood memory stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now we know that Reagan was kind of evil, and a lot of people got fucked over in the 80s.
Sure. Yeah, fair. Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot to be angry about.
Yeah.
And there's, and without lumping everybody into the same judgmental perspective, like your memories serve you in some way or another,
Yeah.
whether they belong to you or not, right? And you're just looking for truth between the lines. I think I respect that process. I think people deserve to express their pain and to walk through the fire as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And if I'm ever in their presence, I feel my only real obligation is to really kind of just be there in an embrace sort of.
Right. Yeah, you want to check
fashion.
in. Like, hey, you're going through some stuff. I'm just checking in. You need anything from me? Can I help in any way?
Yeah.
No, man, I just need to. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you need somebody,
Seems to be the best modality for me in the
Yeah.
last 6 months. I think it's because I'm out there and everybody's got a different opinion of what's happening.
yeah.
It literally is, different things mean different fucking things to people.
Right.
So I'm just careful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky. I've been trained by the nature of what has been happening for me, in my career.
Yeah.
But the going back to your original opening as far as politics and where we're at,
Yeah.
I've kind of felt this weird, like Walking Dead apocalyptic cloud hanging over.
Yeah.
And all the flags driving by and all the people hanging out on the overpasses and all the strange looks we've given each other. I just Hollywood's really fucked me up. So the only place I really feel safe and consistent is here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, the just the other day, what was it? It was I saw a Trump truck driving by, big old like oversized flag, planted in the butt bed and all that stuff, and I had a little twinge of liberal anger, and I thought, man, I had this urge. I want to go to the store. I want to get a dozen eggs, and I want to pelt them at every Trump truck I see.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, hold on a second. This is the kind of thinking that we need to avoid. I mean, yes, you get a little like, oh, it would make me feel, it would relieve, not feel good. It would relieve tension. It would relieve anxiety. But at what cost? Now this guy's got to go wash his truck, and now he has a worse opinion of anti-Trumpers. So, I mean, it doesn't do anyone any good.
No. And, with respect to the country and the freedoms that come with,
Yeah.
people should be able to fly their flags high and sing and praise, proudly and loudly
Yeah.
about what they believe in. I think when I see that, all I see is capitalism capitalizing on itself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like these people who make these flags are like, they're making money and earning a good living in
they're-
this country, and why the fuck not?
And they're taking advantage of people.
And
in a big
you know
way.
what? That's their own moral ground. I
Yeah.
don't have anything to do with that, because from a non-judgmental platform, it's like, why would I blame anybody for trying to make their life better?
Yeah.
And I understand that your beliefs play a part in your decisions in consumerism or capitalism, but like, when I think of family members, let's say if I had a friend, a best friend who loved the shit out of Biden, but was making these Trump things, these trumpets, and selling them and making a good money, and then putting that money into a Biden campaign.
I was just thinking about that.
I'd be like, well, fucking good for you, man. You fucking figured it out. Because that's the thing. Unless politics is your fucking business, it's not your fucking business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, go make your influence. Like, go into consumerism, go into capitalism, stand your ground, start your fucking shit, and like, make it better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we all want to point the fucking finger at people. I did this shit for years. I'm only yelling at myself.
Right.
So please, nobody take it personal. I'm yelling at me and my ego, because I've sat in a space before thinking, fuck those people. I deserve better. I work almost as hard as I could, and they don't pay me shit. And it's like, when do you stop fucking yelling at people and just
Yeah.
make your fucking shit better? And I get you have circumstances, but we've seen the worst come into the best situations.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I've gotten away. Like, I can't remember the last time I had the thought of like, man, fuck those people. Because
I have it every day.
I'm more of a, what the fuck is wrong with those people?
Sure.
I'm like, I'm not angry. Fuck them. I'm like, how, what? I what?
Yeah.
Like the whole like, universal healthcare thing. My opinion is like, do you have to be dragged kicking and screaming into a better future? Because if we have to drag you kicking and screaming into a better future, we will. Like, that should be the progressive
We are.
attitude.
We
you know?
are. I mean, Trump became president,
Yeah.
and whoever's still here is still here.
Right.
Like, you're going to be here, and you're
Yeah.
going to have to figure out how to get along with your neighbors.
Right.
You really should. I mean, you don't have to, but it's a choice.
Wouldn't it be nicer? Wouldn't it be
For me,
make for at least for your own personal mental well-being to be at least on a friendly basis with people.
You just want to have a working relationship.
Right.
You know, because first of all, if we're talking about immediate community, your neighbors, your next door neighbors, you don't have to like be buddies with them, right? You don't have to invite them to all the house events. You don't have to do any of that that get together shit. You don't have to. I mean, I think people misconceive that. It's like, especially now with social distancing, fuck that.
Yeah.
But you do want to stop and talk. You do want to stop and offer some truth. You do want to, relay some perspective to show them what you're working with. Give them some meat to chew on, because they need to know that you got their back.
Right.
In some capacity, because you want the same for you. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're loaded, they're locked and loaded, and the shit goes down, you might want to have somebody like that have your back. So I think those are the important things about what's happening right now is, everything's upside down, but some things are fundamentally still the same.
Right.
Anchor yourself to your fucking home. Govern your house the way you want the government to work.
Right.
So you want no freeloaders? Shut the fuck up. Kick them out.
Yeah.
If you can handle that, good for you. Trump up and fucking get up the hill and lock it down for everybody. That's great. But if you're having trouble, you're just like every other motherfucker who loves and cares about somebody.
Right.
And that's not just a liberal household.
No, it's every household. Everyone has family. And I mean, that gets to the point of the kind of thing I'd like to explore if I were to talk to somebody who's way more conservative or a little more conservative, whatever. Especially any kind of like third-party libertarian types who spend their time saying, "Oh, both parties are blah, both this and that." The people who's like, if you vote Democrat or Republican, you're just sheeple. It's like the moment I hear sheeple, I'm like, okay, you're done.
Sure.
So I can't.
But I mean, of course, we were tribal beings.
Yeah.
We have commitments, loyalties. And like, where do you draw the line between science and your spiritual connection? Because they're very different at some point.
I think a source of my anxiety is that since I was a kid, since I can remember, because this has always been kind of the feeling I've got is like, no, we're all human beings. We're part of a global tribe here.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
People who's like Judaism, no, we are a tribe. Like, okay, no, you're a tribe, but I mean, you're part of a larger global community of human beings. Like, and there's no real difference between you or the woman in China or the dude in, Australia. We're all human beings. We all need to breathe air. We all need to eat. We all need to shit and piss. We all want to connect with people. But what are the things that are driving us apart, keeping us from connecting? That's where we need to address, that's the problem. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I also have to think about like all the other extremes, right? So I'm all about world peace. I understand what that means for me, and I have to figure that out on my own. I'm good with that. But I also know that I'm susceptible to change. I also know that it can't reflect on any truly evil that I've experienced in the world. I don't think I've ever, even from the darkest spaces, I see the mental illness that was there. Right. And that's different from evil. So I can't speak to those who have experienced that and have that kind of carved into their heart. And I also know that my vulnerability could open me up to that world, knock on wood, that it doesn't happen. But it kind of puts me in limbo about some things, like let's say the death penalty. At what point is it okay to take someone's life? Do you have that clearly drawn out in your mind?
Yeah, in my mind, I was actually thinking about this on the way over here too. It's like, you really need to test. We're at a point now where I would ask people to test their bounds of empathy. Should Bill Cosby have been put to death because of all the rapes? I don't think so. Should
Why not? Have you ever been raped?
not that I can clearly recall,
Sure.
but I have been witness to and party to molestation when I was a kid. I've been aware of it. And
What does that mean for you
for me,
in relation to this?
in relation to this, that means, okay, there was this guy. It was a daycare I was at, and it came to be known that he was diddling kids. And
I didn't mean for you to like get into it if you didn't want to.
No, that's fine.
But
And he got caught. He got put in jail. I was like, okay, that seems right to me. People who
does it stop there where he's incarcerated, or do you think that there should have been more?
I think it can stop there. I think you need to give people a chance to reform. You know, the whole point of jail, the whole point of prison is to give you a social timeout where you can discover how you went against the social norm, how you broke laws, how you hurt people, and give yourself a chance to be a better person.
So you agree that the structure in society for a person to, accept their responsibility and then be incarcerated is a reasonable structure in society.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my anger comes when corruption ruins that structure. So like Epstein should have stood trial, but no, he mysteriously kills himself while under watch. Okay, that's a corruption in the system. It's not that Epstein got what he deserved and he killed him. No, he should have rotted for the rest of his life in jail.
I suppose, man. I suppose. Because we're draining our own resources at that point. So I have to ask, when someone else's life could be exponentially better from the resources spent on someone like Epstein,
Right.
where do we draw the line of what life means more?
Well, what we should be doing with somebody like Epstein is keeping them alive and relatively safe in prison so that they can be studied by psychologists, so we can figure out what we can better understand this malfunction in human brains that happens where they want to do horrible things to other human beings.
They should just study rich-ass people.
I mean, there is
Because, like, what do you do when
something
you
to be
have...
said about the psychology of wealth.
Okay.
Like what?
So now we're
I've never
fucking with
experienced
people's
the
money.
psychology of wealth, but there's got to be pluses and minuses to that. Like,
Yeah.
because you, like I said, you give me
How do
billions of dollars and I do massive things to help people. I don't care about the money.
Do you see the sense of responsibility with that kind of money?
Well, yeah, you have like, I know Bezos has a whole industry that is reliant on him, and his Amazon is its own thing now. He could probably leave. He could probably retire and never have to earn another dollar in his life. But he has, a whole support structure of probably bodyguards and personal assistants and all these kind of things. And now he has to, he lost half his fortune in a divorce.
I think the biggest...
So he's probably got therapy bills too.
I think the biggest thing that I respect in wealth and money and super wealth is that there's so much more things that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And unless what you're doing to create the wealth and to manage the wealth is fulfilling to you, there's a real danger in abundance.
Yeah.
And when your sensations in society are manipulated by sheer volume, that how do your decisions get judged by the same decisions made from a brain that comes from a low budget?
Yeah.
Like, they're realms. They are different realms of reality.
That's what gives me pause in getting too judgmental about rich people. That's exactly what it is.
You have to. I mean, to optimize your chances in the world, you kind of have to just look at all the dangerous corners of everything before
Yeah.
you throw that rock, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and think what your perception does when you see, and this happens to me all the time because of where I work. I'm in Granite Bay, Roseville. You live in Roseville. I mean, you drive around these cities and half the fucking cars on the road are electric. And there's trucks that are parked in suburban fucking driveways, trucks that haul new furniture to the house so they can decorate the big fucking mansion. Like the lifestyle of wealth, and it just, the perception of it seems so convoluted with your ignorance or one's ignorance, right? Because all we know is what we know. Unless you're fucking in that house with those people sharing that wealth, you don't fucking know.
And so you're left saying, you know, oh, they spent how much money on what? Oh my God.
Right.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
This is the very fucking, what's the word? Obvious thing about social media is, and I think this has happened to me, is that the perception of someone and their wealth, it like kind of puts you in a category. And I think it's a subconscious thing. I think people see it, then they just sort of check the box. Oh, you're one of those now. Fuck you. I do it. I know that there's a danger when I look at social media. I'm going to fucking lump somebody into a box and feel what I feel and squeeze the juice out of this fucking bitter orange. And like, it's just stupid. It's stupid behavior.
Yeah, there are some people on social media that I have unfollowed and I haven't checked in with because of that very thing. It's like, oh, they're in that box now. Oh, I can't. I cannot come to terms with somebody being on my social media feed that is saying these things that not only do I not agree with, that I think are horrendous. Like, there's a difference between not agreeing and then, okay, come on, there's got to be a moral stand made here.
Here's what I think. I think there are different species of brains that require different frequencies, different stimulations at different paces, so on and so forth, right? Culture is just a way for us to sort of sift through the ashes of what we know.
Right.
So we're like, oh, well, you're black, right? Okay, so black people do this, black people do that. You do it with like, oh, you're Puerto Rican. What's the fucking difference between that and fucking Mexican? What the fuck are you cooking over there? Like we start, you know, like our monkey minds start trying to like compartmentalize what we're experiencing. And that's just fucking stupid to say that that's the best we can do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, so like for me, Black Lives Matter is a multi-leveled like sound. Like, and one answer is duh.
Yeah.
Right? Like duh. What else is no? Right? Okay. Everybody's great. That's what that means to me. Everybody's good. Yes, of course. Of course everybody's good. I have no, even though I was bought and paid for by the government.
Right.
I've somehow been captivated by the civilian world and now sort of the opposite life that I've experienced. And, you know, the thing about structure, things like, whoa, excuse me, bubble water. I swear to God, it's bubble water.
Oh, I know.
The thing about religion, culture, belief systems, history, age of the planet, the universe, information. The thing about that stuff is it's just that. It's stuff. And the reason why I've gotten into like woodworking is like I'm nature. I am nature. It started with this shit. With this fucking stuff that came out of the earth. And my job is to give the earth what my potential is. Right? And I think that can be translated in anything. You can translate that into veterinarian work. You can translate that into being an actor. You can translate that into any modality you pursue.
Right.
But the difference in understanding like the core value of it to you and understanding what society has put in your head is a very difficult skill to attain.
Oh, yeah.
And to maintain, because the material world gnaws at us.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking, we get stabbed in the fucking grocery store. Hey, fat fuck. You ever had these cookies? I'm like, no, I can't. I'm on a diet. Well, you better fucking eat them because they're going out of style fast. Like, that's the kind of dumb shit that happens to people in the environment. So,
Yeah.
like, when do we say it's okay for the corporations or the government or our neighbor to tell us what's good or what's not good?
Yeah. And
Where's the line?
And the difference there in the grocery store is I was just at the grocery store today before coming over here, and kettle chips. Yum, salt and vinegar kettle chips. Ooh, they're on sale. But you have to buy 4 to get the sale price. I was like, well, I don't want 4 bags of chips, so I'm not gonna buy it. It's like, and I know people, and so many people, and again, not a problem. This is just how people are. They will see a bag of chips, see that it's kettle chips. They're on sale, $2 a piece, but you got to buy 4. It's like, all right, I need to get that sale. I need to get the sale.
Yeah, like, and you know what? Cooking at home is like going to the gym.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you know, I feel if you don't cook your food and then consume it and mindfully consume, you know, the nature of what's going to become you, then you unintentionally become something else. You see what I'm saying? Because before you know it, the reflection of the mirror is not what you thought was happening.
You don't, in our society, maybe might be more like in the vein of what you're talking about. We live in a society where they make it so easy to go on autopilot. And the more you go on autopilot, the less like you are, and the less you can express.
Because we're cultivating ourselves.
Exactly. It's like, no, you have the house, and you have to have the sleep number bed, and you have to have this kind of sheets, and you have to have this kind of stuff in your house, and then you get up and you go to work every day and you do the thing, and you come home and you manage being able to stay on autopilot. That's all you're doing is autopilot management. And
you're surviving your robot nature.
Exactly. And society,
that's our technology.
Society has set it up where you are encouraged to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, no, you gotta go to work. You gotta do the thing.
Everything has to be fun and everything has to be bright and painless and money and
also productive and also financially beneficial.
Guilty. Everything gets lumped in. But you know what? It's like this. Like I was going, like the whole thing about history. We take what works. Mm-hmm. You take what works and you integrate that into the future you see for you and your community. And that's what I'm saying. I think at this time period where we're unifying ourselves by some decision, you have to really think about how you live in that community, who you talk to, and how you talk to them. Right. How do you talk to the person who owns a grocery store right down the street from you? How do you talk to the person who owns those little cigarette shops or the pizza place you order from when you get home fucking late and you're tired as hell? And you go in there with your fucking eyes blazed red and you're stumbling over your words. Like, how do you talk to those people? Like, you got to be really fucking grateful for the people who deal with you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. That's your politics. It's what you complain about when you see it in other people. Yeah. It's qualities that exist in you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why, it's like, bringing it to the 2020 of everything. When I talk about everything coming to a head, it's like, okay, the systemic racism thing is coming to a head. It's getting to a point where it's like, okay, it's clearly a thing that people are either denying or skirting around, or they're addressing it head on. And if it's a thing that exists, you got to address it head on.
Look, it's like this. We're all roommates, right?
Yeah.
Blacks, Mexicans, Asians, whites, whatever. We're all roommates. We've been living in the same fucking shitty shack for a while, and nobody wants to clean up their goddamn mess, right?
Yeah.
But now, think of it this way. Our black brothers and sisters, they are down and out, but they're great. They're fucking amazing, loyal, strong, historical people. and they're down and out and they're asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little hard to ask for fucking help when people don't want to listen.
Oh,
It's hard to get someone's attention when everybody thinks you should be able to do it by your goddamn self.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, the blacks are saying, hey, can we get a leg up? Just a little fucking help in these neighborhoods?
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you send the fucking street sweepers a little bit earlier?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
help us out. That's what they're saying. And you can participate in the healing process simply by acknowledging that, having respect for it, and just always making it a point to have that awareness. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all they're asking, because the rest is fucking history. It'll evolve.
Mm-hmm.
You'll help each other into a better existence.
Right, and that's, I don't know. I think the main difference in how people relate to others who are in any way different looking or different in philosophy to them is like, you can either look at this as somebody to be defensive about or somebody to get to know better. Like, hey, you're different than me. Let's talk about that. It's so cool that we come from different cultural backgrounds. We can share different types of stories. We can share different types of food. We can share our cultures and learn from each other. It's so amazing. But no, because your skin is darker than mine, I don't want to talk to you. That makes no sense. Just because you speak a different language, we can figure a way to communicate. We can communicate through art. We can communicate different ways. We don't need to, we don't really need to share any culture whatsoever. I think that makes it more interesting when you're talking to people.
Yeah, shame is not really something we really need to be concerned about
Right.
at this point, because I think there's a community built for every type of person. Even the dark, the dark and morbid ones. There's a community for you. And,
It's called 4chan.
we're tribal creatures wandering the land trying to understand why we understand what we understand. And
Yeah.
like, how the fuck does that, how do you ever come to terms with that? You don't. You just go. And whatever you're doing today is going to really determine what happens tomorrow.
And even further into that, if you are indeed an instance where the universe is expressing itself and trying to figure itself out, how better way to figure yourself out as a piece of the universe than talking to another piece of the universe and to get that perspective? Like, we all have a perspective, and it's all a little bit different, but we're all part of the same big puzzle piece,
It's really weird when you think about it.
Or we're all puzzle pieces, rather.
Totally. That don't really fit together sometimes, even when we did at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like they metamorph
It's like-
into...
Yeah, like you're a puzzle piece. You're looking for puzzle pieces to link with, and sometimes you find good enough for now puzzle pieces that you can link up with, but it's not perfect, and it so rarely is.
You know what we are? We're a culmination of all the different brands of smartphones out there. We are. If you think about it, those companies, those brands, the technology, the engineering is based in some human's idea of what makes it most optimal. Yes, sir. Yes, you can. Wait, what else have you eaten? Cereal this morning? Okay. Can you do me a favor? Don't say no before you even say yes. I want you to get some noodles out of that bag. Get some in the fridge. Noodles, make yourself a little bowl of spaghetti, and then yes, you can have that. Okay? All right, thank you. He will only eat snacks to survive if I let him.
Yep.
And he gets lazy, so he's like, he doesn't want to put food together. He doesn't like to architect his own fucking meal. People, man, we never change,
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I had something to say about that too, like the not cooking at home. I like cooking at home, and when Amanda and I can get together and actually cook something together and make food together, it's the best. But life being what it is, and her job being what it is, like, we don't have a set coming home schedule. So it's
Yeah.
like, the best we can do is, we got some quick serves to, microwave it meals. And they're, good quality stuff, but it ain't cooking fresh food.
Yeah.
And after a while, we get to craving that. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, day off, we have got to make dinner, like from scratch in the kitchen. God damn it, we have to. It has to be done. Because you don't want to fucking eat out every day. You don't want to eat fast food every day. You don't want to get your quick meal that you just add water to your cup of noodles.
But you know what? That's something I wanted to say earlier too. Is
Yeah.
like we live in a lifestyle of more.
Capitalism.
And we just justify these decisions by sometimes like we help family,
Mm-hmm.
and not to toot the horn, but like it's just where the money goes, and we forget sometimes that if we weren't living the lives we wanted and helping the people we wanted, we wouldn't feel the same way about ourselves or each other.
Yeah.
It's a part of who we are, and it stems from our belief systems inside. And like, I see the representation of why we handle our money the way we do, and like, there's a lot of mechanics and relationships with those decisions, And all that being said, like, I feel absolutely rich,
Yeah.
and with the health changes that have come about, and then the ability to sort of express myself, like those are pretty basic things, but like you kind of have to put up with the sacrifices.
Yeah.
I mean, because you do, like, you make sacrifices. You guys have an alternating schedule that doesn't allow you to really enjoy each other the way you would prefer,
Right.
and likewise for many other couples out there. So that's the other thing too about people. And when I'm out and about, it's like, I respect all the sacrifices we make in the workforce. And when somebody's not doing well and you see it, like, we should acknowledge that in some capacity, whether we shut the hell up. That's something I have to do, is like, okay, I know I want to come in here and talk, but I need to shut the hell up because this guy's tired and he's busy or whatever. Right. So I just make their agenda my agenda. And that seems to be a working formula currently.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else you got?
Just a thought, another overall about everything kind of thought, which is, I see a lot of you can see when somebody is expressing themselves from a place of ignorance, especially on social media. You'll see like something that's supposed to be a joke, but it's not funny, and it really kind of says more about the person who's telling it than what they're trying to joke about. And here's an example. I saw one, it was, a Twitter post, and it was all caps, my Kia is a Mercedes, my Kia is a Mercedes, my Kia is a Mercedes, over and over again. And it's like, that's what it sounds like to me when I hear trans women are women, trans women are women, trans women are women. It's like, okay, so somebody doesn't get what that's all about at all. Because, okay, so I'll break it down. What you're expressing, if I were to, from what I understand, how I understand the whole transsexual thing or transgender thing is, no, what you're saying is, I have a Kia, but what I really feel like is a Mercedes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Kia into the shop. I'm going to take the shell off. I'm going to get it down to the chassis. I'm going to put a Mercedes engine in it. And then I'm going to put a Mercedes shell on top of my Kia chassis. And hey, as far as anyone's concerned, I am now in a Mercedes. And that's my reality, is I'm driving a Mercedes.
Wow. That is so interesting to see it as an algorithm for a constricted perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to hear it in real
It's
time.
like, if you're gonna make a car analogy to transgender, I think that's a little closer. And again, I'm not transgender, so any transgender listeners out there want to correct me or tell me I'm closer to the mark or give me a better analogy to tell people who aren't transgender how they can properly think about what transgender people go through psychologically. I think that is a little closer to the mark, as from what I understand.
Sure.
And so it's like, instead of, and that's a good example, like your reaction to somebody who's saying something you don't agree with, something that you might find heinous, online is to attack, like, you're an idiot, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. But no, take a step back, see where they're coming from, see where they might be lacking information. Maybe they don't know anyone who's transgender and they have no idea. And it's a phobia thing, and it's from a place of ignorance. So if you can then say, hey, I know you're trying to joke, but if I explain it to you this way, do you see how that joke is fucking stupid? And can you come up with a better fucking joke?
You know what? That's funny because we saw a piece of decoration that said, "I'm not a control freak, but can I show you how to do that the right way?" It's like, it's so perfect. It just sunk right into our reality. You know, I have to say, it is such a beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs next door are not barking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have a nice space to be in and share time.
Mm-hmm.
And identity politics, American government politics, these things, like, and the news and violence.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to know that for whatever time period throughout whatever length of time in my life, I've gone out into the world with that in my conscious mind, that violence has happened in some neighborhood. And when I'm then in that neighborhood physically, I can feel that sensation
Mm-hmm.
in my body and in my mind. And it influences my being.
Mm-hmm.
And to think back at how non-productive that is in terms of rationality.
Yeah.
Like, I love that culture is becoming something else, because I think that's what identity politics is that you can't really, nobody's really a fucking native anymore.
Yeah.
We're all made up of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no fucking point. And your ideologies, those are different than where you're from.
Yeah.
Those are fucking things you carry around for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I love that this is a very transformative time for the entire world.
Yeah.
And our children, or the children around us, are like us when we were watching the wall in Germany being taken down.
Yeah.
Thinking to ourselves back then, or at least for me, like, duh. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. Like,
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah.
Like, why are these concepts so controversial? And I can only appreciate that I just don't understand how other brains see the world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like, the life pressures they feel and what they carry around in their reality when they go through a community. You
Yeah.
know, when they come from a country that people most relate to, Nazi Germany. Like, what do you think that does to somebody who speaks with that accent and someone who's
Yeah.
naive or ignorant on the other end?
Yeah. I may have told this story on this podcast before, but when I was a kid, in elementary school, one of the kids' dad was first generation American from Germany. So he knew German, and he offered to teach, start a German club, just a cultural awareness kind of club. And, that's part of my genealogical heritage. So I was super interested and super excited. And I brought in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade because people spoke German in that movie. And so, and I wanted to know from somebody who spoke German if the translation was appropriate, if it was a proper translation on the subtitles. And looking, like, even now it makes me uncomfortable because it's like, yeah, but they're Nazis. And I didn't know it at the time, but like, Germans are indoctrinated with a certain amount of shame about that.
Yeah.
And I think rightly so. It's something
are
that
too.
shouldn't be forgotten about and shouldn't be felt good about. Or, I mean, and it's like the Holocaust deniers. It's like, oh my God, really? You guys haven't learned the lesson from history, if that's what your takeaway is.
Yeah.
But so it made me, even now, I'm like, oh God, that was so fucking bad. Like, that was probably so embarrassing and shameful for that person. But other than that, I don't remember what their reaction was. But looking back, I'm like, I should not have done that. That was culturally insensitive, you know?
I suppose, yeah. You know, I have spent enough time looking back at some of my most ignorant mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I went off on this guy, Harry,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought he accused me of being a homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time in my life, I believed that in order for me to fit in, homophobia was a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I believed that in order for me to hang out with the people I aspired to, for whatever reason, culture had kind of put some things in my head, and I thought I had to be interested in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I didn't like it, I would trot it around like it was like I owned it. Took ownership of music that I didn't really care for.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fucking rap music didn't make sense to me
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't come from that intensity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I rapped about cookie cutter housing and the
Right.
safety of having a neighborhood patrolled at night by police officers, like I can't justify that in that arena because people want controversy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about American culture is we are fed controversy.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the worldview, but we don't watch those local Good Day, etc. TV shows because they're fucking fun and like everybody who's doing the show is having the best time, but everybody watching the show is like, I need to say a train crash in the background in the next few seconds or I'm changing the fucking channel.
Yeah.
And that's just how we're wired, man.
We
And
need excitement. We need it to, you know.
that's just how we, and I think the more I talk about, you know, let's say brand name topics, it's like I think that that's what all these conversations taught me was that I love and adore the people that I talk to,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the beliefs and expectations I had put them in categories that did not serve me well.
Right.
And I carried that darkness around long enough to understand that there's something going on in me, you know?
Yeah, and that is another big thing that people are coming to terms with. That's what 2020 has done. I mean, over the last 4 years, really, we've had this whole calling out of toxic masculinity thing going on. And what that's done for maybe those of us who aren't so toxic in our masculinity is address times where we have gotten toxic. I don't consider myself toxically male in any way, but I have had moments in my 20s looking back, it's like, oh, that wasn't right
I've
to
been
do, you know?
yeah,
Like, I don't want to make fun of gay people,
Yeah.
but yeah, like we came up in a homophobic, you know, we came up under the cloud of AIDS. So that was the baseline was homophobia. It's like gay sex is deadly. Being gay is wrong. It's going to get you beat up. It's going to get you made fun of.
anything in the spotlight is going to get twisted
So
up.
even if you were to express whatever feminine expressions you might have as a man, if it's going to get you made fun of, you're not going to allow that part of yourself to flourish.
So that being said, it's a great example of how evolution works. And some of the ideas that we had yesterday turn out to be some of the dumbest fucking things we've ever done. And that is a process that repeats itself. That's what people mean when they say history repeats itself.
Yeah.
It's a part of a biological pattern. It's just
Right.
how it goes. So if we can just skip the intro and go right to the meat of the Netflix special we are,
Yeah.
we can all agree that this life can be spectacular. And it can be in a good way or in a really, really fucking hellish bad way.
Yeah.
And in most cases, the help of each other generally generates a positive outcome.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty basic formula
Right.
to use. And if you're morally sort of in tune or on the same frequency level, then you've got some shit to work with. But if you've got something that is beyond, the atypical brain's understanding, your life is full of consequences that may or may not belong to you. And, vaya con Dios, as they say. Go with God. I mean...
Yeah. And one thing like 2020, it's been a spectacularly negative year for everybody. And it's really hampered our mode of communication with each other. So, and that's one thing we can do coming out of this is everybody, we can learn how to have conversations again. We can learn how to have social discourse again. And everybody being stuck at home for so long, it's like we can all approach it with new eyes, with maybe a new perspective. And maybe those perspectives can be at odds with each other sometimes, but we can all kind of work that out moving forward.
And the awareness of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people have a different take on time because change is a huge part of that impact in our life. That's why we think back to certain decades or periods of time, is the life-changing events that happen. So 2020, okay, that's like our World War II.
Yeah.
We get to carry that around like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
We can use it to relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We can use it to prosper in our own life.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for people to use the perspective to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And, not everybody is being moved along in the same way by nature.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have full say in what's going on around us.
Oh, no.
We really don't. And I mean, we may think we do. And, you get to experience that in creativity.
Yeah.
Make something. Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Let that be the $1 million that, that you're looking for. And I think that's just the most optimal way to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you? You got quarrels you wanted to jump on, yell at? You want to say stuff politically that I kind of put your fire out on accident?
Let me think about that. While I take a break, I gotta
Fair enough, man. I'll just
restroom it.
I'll just use this airtime to air out whatever.
Do your thing, man.
Thanks, man. I just have to say to everybody out there who's made it this far into this podcast, maybe I should do like a freestyle while Reg is gone. Let's see. Oh, shit. Yeah. Yo. Welcome to the podcast studio. Yo, my name is Mike Haley. It's 2020. A lot of people might hate me, but when it's empty outside and they lingering by and they ask me, what you doing later tonight? And I'm like, nothing. Want to come around, do a podcast, say a few things about people and they ask. Make it up as we go. We can drink some bubbly water on a makeshift table. Freestyles, they don't go well sometimes. They sound like dumb shit that came out of your mind. The only goal I have is to make it rhyme and not earn a dime. So that's kind of how I've been feeling. And I love it. I love my life. I love my kid. I love my kids by extension. I love my woman. I love my parents. I love my sister. I love my dog. I love my cats. Now, one of these days, I'll make a video and show you guys the cats because they're worth talking about. They're magic. They're magical cats. I've just been spending a lot of time focused on work and fitness. I've lost some weight and it feels good. And I don't want to ever make what I'm doing about that other than doing that. So I'm trying not to get braggadocious in social media because it just gnaws at you, you know, like it feels competitive. I can't help it. I'm just being honest with you. Okay. So I'm going to, you know, plus I don't want to disrespect my woman by doing that because this is ultimately for us. So, but you know what? There's a benefit to some of the information and you'll get it. Trust me, you'll get it. It'll come. I hope that schools and education and the changes that came from this really are as glowing as they seem in my mind. I think teachers, students, parents, faculty, I think communities understand how important education really is and how important that the community come together in some fashion for the sake of the future. I think school is the perfect way to do that. I think if we were to turn school into a much more of a community effort, it'd be better than a private school because it'd be us. And, you know, if you're under government support, then you should have community service at your local school. I think that's your way to earn it back. So just an idea. Vote for me oh, wait, are they closed? Shit. Never mind. Reggie's back. Welcome back, Reg.
Hey. All right, feel better now. So, I don't know. Do I have anything to sound off about? I can't think of anything.
All right, hold on. Let's see if we can inspire. See if the music does it for you. Just close your eyes and go into your mind. Let's just do that right now, Reg. Let's go into the mind. Get in close, get comfortable, and turn this up a little bit. There you go.
There we are. I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling optimistic about tomorrow, about moving forward, about society. We got some speed bumps ahead of us, for sure. We got our own personal ignorances that we need to deal with. We've got our hang-ups. We've got our joys, our pleasures, all rolling together into the human experience, and we need to be able to share that with each other in a positive way. We really need to connect, and we need to think about each other as part of a larger species, as part of a planet-wide entity.
Let me ask you something, Reg. What is your code of honor? If you had to put it in a nice phraseable Reg plaque, what is your core belief about the future, and what is your responsibility?
The future can be bright, but we have to try. And we can never stop.
Here we go. Go ahead. Keep going. Let me know, man. Make it poetic.
Folks, I see a bright future. I see a future where everyone kind of gets along because everyone knows what their business is and when to mind their own business and when to help others with others' businesses. We've got to have a baseline of getting along, have a baseline of friendship. It's one lesson I learned from my dog, Madison. Try to be friends with everybody. Let the other person blow you off. Let the other person shut you out. But remain open otherwise.
Can I do the devil's advocate
Do
for
a
the
thing.
other side?
Do a thing.
Okay, I'm gonna reverse psychology, people. See if I can get the right music. No. Oh yeah. Fuck all that noise. Now go out and get yours. Screw everybody else. Stick your finger up at the police. Yeah. Go out and buy a gun for your protection. Yeah, try and get people pregnant, but don't claim it as your baby.
Fuck that mask.
Fuck that mask. Walk into a place and scream out loud, I love COVID.
Now come give me a kiss.
Or don't do any of that stuff. Just do what Reg said. I think you're better off that way. Let's ignore all that dark stuff. Unless you're going to write a script and have us read it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's
let's-
an invitation.
I don't know about ignoring the dark stuff, but you know what? I've got to make fun of it when I see it. Like that's how I cope with the darkness. You got to make fun of it. You got to take the power away from it.
That's fair.
You know,
That's
it's
fair.
like face to face with hardcore conservatives. I'm prone to want to talk. I'm prone to want to converse and get to it. Like, okay, sell me on a conservative idea. See if you can do it.
What is that? Why are you so driven to understand? And I mean, I guess I could answer that in my own, but I want to know what it sounds like to you.
For me, it's all about, and this might have been, I think you have a similar kind of situation growing up. We were always moving around. So you had to make friends fast, and you do that through humor. But you've got to know how to get along with a whole bunch of different types of people. And so for me, it's all about, I can be friends with anybody if I have an understanding with them, if I understand where they're coming from, if I can connect in that way. So, I don't know.
Well, are you?
I think, okay, so as an example, if I were to get into a conversation with somebody who was very religious,
Yeah.
and they took a stance of, well, yeah, women should remain in the home and become baby vessels because that's what I believe. I would ask, I would try to open them up to thinking about the opposite of that. See how it feels to them. Like, how would you feel if, say, you met a woman who was the woman of your dreams, and everything was perfect, and she was religious like you, but she had a very high-paying job, and you didn't, and to slip into the traditional role would mean that your family would take a huge pay cut.
What is?
Well, then I don't know. Maybe I'd be the one to stay at home, and maybe you can reconcile this with your religious beliefs in, okay, maybe there should be a partner at home. And that doesn't have to be the woman, but maybe there should be a partner at home to take care of the home. And to hell with the gender role of it.
So let me
That's
ask.
just as beneficial, I think, to a relationship, to a potential family, or to a family, if there is a partner at home. If you can afford to have a partner at home instead of like daycare or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are sacrifices no matter the gender, no matter the disposition,
Mhm.
no matter the goals, no matter the circumstances.
Right.
It is life's journey.
Right.
And a lot like the waves crashing on the beach, where some of us creatures are not going to make it in on time,
Right.
and we're going to get eaten alive.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't change intellectually. The biology of our minds and how they work and how much we can fathom, how the capacity for information, the amount of influences and stimulation we get from the current society setup, environment, and standards of living. I happen to think that we are not psychologically sound to be put under this type of pressure. But
Yeah.
for some reason, our ideologies lead us down a road to push ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it correlates with hard work and progress,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also, what are we working hard for?
Yeah.
And that becomes the question of the day. Like, what are we working hard for? So I don't disagree that hard work is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it should be something you do for you as the nature of what you are,
Right.
the accessible potential in your being,
Mm-hmm.
in your capabilities, the benefit to your acknowledgement of that and your implication or your implementation of that to the environment,
Mm-hmm.
implementation,
Right.
just to sort of sit in the moment of all of what you are and have to offer. And I don't know, and this is all philosophical, observational humor in some sense. It
Right.
just sounds serious, but I'm just an actor trying to build a scene in my head, right? And I think that the variables are so like interchangeable and constantly moving that the only thing you can really settle in on is the moment that you're doing, the moment you're not consuming but doing. And when you're doing anything but participating in the environment, this is why people who move off the grid seem to have such a fulfilling side effect, is because they're living in the doing. They're not observing
Right.
anymore. They're moving with nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is sort of the more natural approach to us as a species. Seems to make more sense that we're involved in nature somehow to help the planet sort of cultivate the best out of itself and to spread the seeds to the point where everything benefits. And
Yeah.
it's possible, to understand ecosystems. That's why I think education needs reform. I think that the study of the human mind, the study of relationships, I think the study of our relationship to nature, these like Waldorf schools and things like that, they're onto something.
Oh, yeah.
But there are so many rules and stipulations out there in public education, and I don't know how it all gets tricky, but I know that it's possible to work and grow up through a system, become innovative and influential in that system, and change things for humanity. This is what Elon Musk is doing.
Mm-hmm.
He just thinks differently.
Yeah.
And he doesn't allow the normal perspective
Mm-hmm.
to hinder his progress. And, those I think are the gifts we have, the personalities that we can kind of like, if you're kind of keen on the rules being broken left and right, start looking at the people who are pioneering towards the future.
Yeah.
You look at those people. You look at ice cream. You look at like people who have those grandeur ideas. Kanye was talking about making a stadium that holds 100,000 people that are all singing and chanting a song, and like I just think that that's beautiful. Why not use your resources to bring people together like that? Like
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that. I think that is leadership.
That kind of thinking has been going on for decades. I can tell you that like Pete Townsend of The Who had this whole album concept of a virtual reality world that everyone plugged into. And that a lot of people live their lives out in this virtual world because the planet has gone to shit. Like he told this like rock opera of the future type story where everyone's kind of getting into the autopilot of putting on your virtual reality suit and going into the virtual world and living out one of the programmed lives that the system hands down to you so that you can be a well-rounded individual. So, you get into the suit one day and you get to experience being a filthy rich person. And then the next day you get to experience being homeless. And it all, feeds into your experience and builds your personality. But what happens when somebody with ulterior motives gets in control of that system and then starts to dictate, no, you're going to, you don't get to choose. I now decide what is best for your programming. So a hacker then gets into the system and calls everybody in the world to a concert where the feedback from every individual feeds into the music and then gets expressed back out into a unifying note.
Yeah.
It's like this grand idea that he never was really fully able to put into any kind of album, but little bits of that are peppered throughout the rest of his career.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that kind of thinking of like going above and beyond what you think is even possible.
Yeah, why not consider utopia possible?
Yeah.
Why not consider world peace?
Think about a
possible?
utopia and work backwards.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it becomes a personal endeavor, a personal journey to see what is underneath that belief. Because we've all kind of seen miracles happen. We understand that a belief in something existential or something beyond ourselves, larger than we know, somehow offers a sense of relief or a sense of support. And it's kind of bizarre, but it's there.
Yeah. And my belief in the bigger thing is simply that there's this like indescribable connectedness that every human being shares. Just it's our species, it's in our genetics. It's like there's this
music.
There's this music, there's this thing that some people can kind of tap into, and I think maybe Kanye has his weird tap into it, and like Pete Townsend had his weird tap into it, and Elon Musk has his weird tap into it of like maybe getting just a glimpse of the big picture and being able to analyze whatever that glimpse is to do something beneficial. And so a lot of musicians are tapped into that. We have a lot of musicians that are tapped into it. Artists are tapped into that. But hey, some engineers are too, and you get Elon Musk.
Well, Elon Musk is a bit of an artist too, I think.
Well, yeah.
I think he takes the human potential to a place where most of us are bewildered by him. Like, how is this man, you know, I don't know. I'm bewildered. I'm definitely a fanboy.
I feel a certain kinship to him, especially after he was on Rogan.
Yeah.
I feel a certain kinship to him in that
he's just a big kid, man.
He thinks weird and he thinks outside the box, and that's the kind of thinking that we need. You know, it's like he had all this money, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna do a fully electric sports car that wins, and it's gonna be really expensive, but people are gonna buy it, and then I'm gonna take all the money I make from that and make a consumer grade all electric car that everyone's going to want.
I guarantee you the most standout thing about 2021 is all the fucking Tesla trucks on the road. I guarantee you, when that shit happens, you will look at the world and be like, holy fucking shit. Because you think about it. Anything that is birthed into the next year is a frontier. It's a pioneering time. So there's no reason to feel limited. There's no reason to feel like you don't have a potential. Because for fuck's sake, man, all we want to do is get to that future. And you know what that means? We're all willing to help each other get there.
Yeah.
So your relationships, that's your money. What you do for each other, how you're there for one another. And mind you, you know, you got to have boundaries, right? But when you can fathom the idea and materialize it, it'll have consequences, good and bad.
Yeah. And
but
so
now's the time.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Elon Musk, you're crazy. You name your kid crazy. I don't care about what you name your fucking kid. It makes no difference what your kid's name is or how weird you are as an eccentric billionaire. You know, if your main goal is to benefit humanity, then do what you do. Because I know if your main goal is to benefit humanity, you're not out to fuck anyone over. Because that doesn't benefit people.
And, you know, his perspective on money is important. And I think that's the thing that I admire about him is that he's not out to exploit capitalism.
Right.
But he's just trying to make it better.
Right.
He's just trying to give everybody a shot at living a reasonable, balanced life.
Yeah.
And fossil fuels, and I mean, like all of the things that attribute to these influences in our lives. Like, how could you not want to support somebody like that? You know, because I get it. Like, I'm concerned about the environment. I am, but I'm not recycling every goddamn thing.
Right.
I'm a fucking shitty monkey sometimes. I'm not at optimal level for everything all the time. But for somebody like that to take accountability on my behalf, yo, he's hanging out with Jesus as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
Elon, what would Elon do? What would Jesus do? Come on, one of you guys, you got to help me out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad to worship the representation
Yeah.
of forward thinking,
Yeah.
of united thinking.
And it's like, what would Jesus do? Well, he wouldn't fucking, he wouldn't,
You just had to put those two words
He
together,
wouldn't-
didn't you?
he wouldn't fucking harp on people for being gay. I don't think. I think he's a love thy neighbor, kind of guy. He's like, hey, we're all human beings. You're just like me.
Jesus is annoying.
Yeah, because
he's
like
always
you can't be
he's
hateful.
he's kind of like, I think I tend to get that way, and I think that's where I realize like I got to learn when to just use other ways to talk, because when my words just keep coming, it's like, oh, I can't. Okay, everybody makes mistakes. I get it. So we can't talk about any of the problems? No, because they're stupid.
Yeah.
They're your problems, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So after a while, I'm just the fucking annoying guy who won't stop looking at the bright side most days.
Yeah.
Most days, not perfect.
Yeah, I feel like that guy too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm like the annoying team leader. All right, everybody, we're gonna do the morning cheer. Hey, turn around, get back over here. Get back over here. We're doing the chair. You know we got to do it. Like I'm that.
come on, what the
team
fuck?
lead. Yeah.
Dude, I'm hungover.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Oh, here he goes. Oh, it's 300 again.
Jesus.
Oh, here he comes. William Wallace. All right, get up there.
Oh my god.
Yeah. No, it's the performer, it's the artist, it's the desire and the yearning to mock the world around me because it's a show. I don't want to give it a negative connotation. It's just a show.
Yeah.
And I like to participate. I like to be in the sitcom sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So the world is a stage. I'm just an actor.
It all comes down to that.
Pretty much. I mean, when you think about art,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where your mind wants to be. It's like it's the one thing that makes the most sense. The idea to create.
Yeah.
If the world around me seems so nuts, then I might as well make the world myself. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Ice cream! All right, man. Shit.
Yeah.
What else? Anything?
Uh.
I gotta do my time card. I'm late. Sorry, boss, if you hear this podcast. I was indisposed.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to maintain a positive outlook on things, and it's when that outlook bumps into things that I sound off. And so it's like, it's all about the conversation. It's all about conversation. It's all about communication. It's so important. And I get a lot of, I've gotten a lot of shit before, like trying to be too nice, or I've been accused of being a fence sitter on things. It's like, oh man, you want to get every perspective. If you don't have every perspective, you're making an ignorant choice. If you don't have all the facts, how can you make a proper choice about any given decision? Facts that pertain to whatever decision you need to make.
Yeah, the preface.
Right.
You have to have a preface to philosophize about any given thing. Like, if you don't have any supporting ideas or experiences that can be, sort of justified in agreement,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't really have anything to stand on. In most cases, in most conversations,
Mm-hmm.
it's an unreasonable, unrealistic end to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just spinning your wheels about shit you don't know.
Yeah.
And unless you're asking somebody for the purpose of education,
Mm-hmm.
for the goal of education, you're on an agenda. And those carry different consequences. And that's something I think if you can just really see what's happening before you can not necessarily stop yourself from doing it, but see yourself doing it when it happens, when you're talking too much, or when you're talking about things that are not relevant to what's happening.
Yeah.
It happens to me. I realize that sometimes my mind is going and it just comes out of my mouth, and all of a sudden I'm inviting somebody into a conversation about fuck knows what, my kid's behavior.
Right.
I
It's like,
mean,
what do they know?
yeah, it's like that's my concern, not theirs, and it's like this is a monkey thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have spent a lot more time quiet, observant, and focused on one thing or many things. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just the education of how my brain works and coming to an understanding of why certain things are.
Right. It's all about, you got to shine a light on even your own ignorance to find the path.
All the time. All the time, I think I need to watch that
Mm-hmm.
because I've lived with it in control most of the time.
Oh, yeah. You know, ignorance is where fear comes from, and fear guides us a lot of the time. We are monkey people, after all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's a basic kind of like survival mechanism. So we go to that when we're unsure, when we're afraid, when we're faced with something we don't know. And it takes, for some people, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of willpower to say, no, I'm going to, I don't know about this thing. I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to figure it out and then make a decision on whether or not I like it or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Oh, Mike's on his phone.
Sorry, I
Oops.
really am trying to do my hours. I warned you, and I jumped in because I just have to say things. Sorry. Not sorry.
You know, Sean Connery just passed.
What do you want? You want some music or something? You want to fuck around with it?
I might have something to say about
yeah.
Sir Sean.
Oh shit, Sean.
Sean Connery just passed, and a lot of people are talking about, oh, what a gem he was. But, you know, he wasn't a saint.
He was no saint.
He was no saint. It's
He's a
important.
real
It's
asshole.
important to know that he was rough with women.
I've done time on. Oh, that's the pirate.
Very I'm gonna drop the accent. It's
not
too
like
rusty.
It's not
He-
like you,
He was
bunny. You want me to what?
but he was a product of his times, you know, and
Sasquatch.
there's a lot of
He does sound test.
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Be
One
careful,
more time,
Ryan.
Mr. Connery. Sasquatch. What's our problem?
Be careful, Ryan. Things in here don't react too well to bullets.
An actual line. It's funny. I could hear the time it took you to piece it together in your mind. And then you perform it. That was hilarious. Do it again. Take two.
Careful, Ryan. Things in here don't react too well to bullets.
That's pretty
Hunt for Red October. One of my favorite
pretty good.
Connery movies.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never seen any Connery movies.
He great actor, whatever, but you know, he wasn't perfect. He bought into a lot of the toxic masculinity stuff that's come to a head in the last couple of years. Physically rough with women. And he was open about it.
Was he really?
He was open and cavalier in interviews about, hey, if a woman's talking back, you should be permitted to hit her with an open hand.
Whoa.
Yeah,
You
stuff
think
like
that's
that.
true?
That's something I don't think it's true.
You
but it's
don't?
something
Why not?
Because if you've gotten to a point of physical violence, you've lost.
Yeah, but what if she hits you first? Like a real punch in the face. What are you supposed to do? Tell me.
Then I'm like, wow. If we're arguing and you just punch me in the face, it means you don't have an argument left, and I've won the argument. We're done.
I suppose, man. But what if she keeps hitting you?
I'm backing away from that shit.
Listen, first
I've
of
had
all,
an abusive girlfriend before. I back away from that.
there we go. See, that's what I'm saying is like, I'm not asking because I think you're wrong. I'm just curious what compels you to set these standards.
I was like, hey, listen, if you're gonna preach, you gotta practice what you preach, and I preach pacifism. So it means if somebody hits me, I'm not hitting them back.
All right,
I'm
so
walking away.
What if she's got you pinned down because she's heavy set and she's bashing your face in with some inanimate object?
Oh no, I do what I can to extricate
What is it that you
myself
can do?
from the situation.
What is it you think you can do?
Probably
You weren't expecting to go through these scenarios.
I don't know.
It's important, Reg, because, you know, you threw that fucking rock out there. And I just want to know, like, do you know what you're aiming at?
Oh, well, you know, I don't know. I've never been in a serious physical assault situation.
Okay, so how do
But
we know?
if I were, I would, you know, self-defense mechanisms kick in. Do I hit back? I really don't know.
How do you know how that unfolds, though? You know, how do you know
don't.
what hit?
Until you're there.
Correct.
All I know is my frame of mind going into any of those situations. And yeah, maybe you know, like you probably run through scenarios like, oh man, what if somebody did just, like a dude, what if a dude just out of nowhere just assaulted me? What would I do? Would I take a defensive stance? Would I fight back? I really don't know. I'd like to think that I would avoid physical confrontation at all costs, but sometimes it can't be avoided. I've avoided it this far in my life.
but you're well aware of the possibilities.
Yeah, but it could happen, and that's
See, this is what I'm saying about what our ideas are. Is like I think if as you go through this process, like you're gonna have to ask those questions to yourself, because when you ask other people, they're gonna like tell you what they believe, and you're gonna hear what you believe, but then you're gonna get some inclination that there's more to it, and then you're gonna be like, because that's every time we go down that rabbit hole, I'm like, what would happen to me? What would happen to me if I was being pinned down by the police? Would I claim racism? Would I claim that because I'm Hispanic and I'm in some get up that I deserve or don't deserve or what have you?
Yeah.
You know, the situation itself has its own personality. And things get decided on behalf of just the picture alone.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to every person involved. Every single person gets cauterized as some representation of the outside world.
Yeah.
And it's proven to like fuck with our heads.
Oh yeah.
And we look at each other in weird ways. You can't say that you go out in a neighborhood that's questionable and have completely unbiased thoughts or views.
Right.
I refuse to believe that anybody lets that jargon or that dialogue disappear in their mind. I think it's bullshit. I think the marketing that has happened to us through artistic measures, through movies, whatever influences we've seen on the screen are in our heads.
Yeah.
And those may not be your beliefs, but they're characterizations of what you've heard in reality. And for those who aren't paying attention to the words that are happening in their mind, don't really know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get angry when you're confused and you're frustrated because you're trying to go somewhere, but things are in the way. Just saying.
So we just need tools to appropriately analyze those moments, though. Like, yeah, don't ignore, if you have weird prejudicial thoughts or anything, don't ignore them. Analyze those. Figure out where they come from. Figure out what's feeding them, and then you can figure out if you need to hold on to those thoughts or not. Like, when I lived in San Francisco, I did a play in Berkeley, South Berkeley, at Black Repertory Group, Black Theater. And the part I got was that of a police officer, a detective, who's investigating a crime that happened related to this black family. And the son is a Vietnam vet who's hooked on drugs because of PTSD. And, you know, a story unravels. It's a good story. But the important part is, you know, this was in a, quote, you know, bad neighborhood. Some especially upper class white folks might call it a bad neighborhood. You know, I take the BART over there. It's at night, you know, going there for rehearsals a couple times a week. And only the first couple of nights did I get that feel like, oh, better be fully aware of my surroundings because this is a dangerous neighborhood. But after a few nights, it's like, no, that's not a dangerous neighborhood. That's just what, like, the news media has programmed me to fucking default to, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, this.
Yes.
Now there's some vets that are setting up camp outside of the theater, like down the sidewalk a little bit. Okay, is that dangerous? No, these are just homeless vets who are trying to get by. You know, let's be respectful. We're all human beings. We need to be respectful, and we need to not let media bias influence our thinking too much.
How do we do that if we're looking at it?
You got to look at all the media, find out where their biases are coming from.
That's a big time investment.
But I mean,
And who do
it
we
might
trust?
be what's required. Don't trust anybody. That's why you look at everything you can.
See, it gets so complicated to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is my own personal take on it. It gets so complex that there's no point in me spinning my wheels about anybody else's shit but my own.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I ended up coming to be. I've taken more interest in how to create opportunities for people to not just purge this shit,
Mm-hmm.
but like see what's at stake for them if they
Right.
don't. So I understand the compulsion because it's like, fuck, man, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. I don't understand through just my lens. I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know, what does everybody else see? And if we don't allow those conversations to happen, whether recorded or not,
Yeah.
it's your future may be bleak. in fact.
It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need to have, those of us who have privileges of a middle class variety, to go to our working class friends and acquaintances and have a conversation about what is troubling them about the world. Because hey, are we both anxious about the same thing but looking at it differently? And could we both benefit from seeing somebody else's point of view, and maybe we can together find some common ground from which to be anxious about this,
Yeah.
Instead of, universal health care means I'm going to pay more taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes. Okay, that's a legitimate concern. Privatized healthcare means some of us won't even have healthcare.
Right.
So, I
So
mean,
then what?
what's more important, that a few people don't have to pay taxes that they don't want to pay, or a lot of people get healthcare that they wouldn't normally have otherwise? I mean, hey, man, you can be selfish and you can be possessive, but that's going to bump into empathy at some point, and you're going to have to make a decision. Personally, I think that 10 more cents off of my paycheck is a small price to pay for universal health care. But hey, you might have a different opinion on that. No, I need that 10 cents. I need it.
No, that's the thing, is it comes from different values.
Yeah, and
the
so it's not
deconstruction.
about the amount of money. It's the premise of the taking of the money in the first place.
Yes.
Like, okay, man,
Yeah.
that's a deeper conversation.
It's your own personal fucking, journey.
Yeah.
Because you're at some bracket
Mm-hmm.
and you've never experienced that other bracket. Because
Right.
if you did, you would know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So don't act as though it's your business unless you intend to do something about it.
Right.
And that's what I mean, is like, if it's not something you're personally involved in bettering, just
Yeah.
by my own moral guide, I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So
The purpose of complaining is to find solutions.
yeah, exactly. So that goes to say that it is maybe a necessary evil to state your case,
Mm-hmm.
but not to let the emotion guide
Yeah.
the attempt to solve something.
Right, because that emotion derails. Like, you can't have. It would be interesting to try to have a conversation with somebody who is openly racist.
Yeah, I mean, but how
Like-
do you come into touch with those people unless it's being arranged for you? Because you would otherwise stay away.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a matter of
I know.
just expressing in every way, every time I have the opportunity. Like, my goal in conversation is not to shame and not to make people feel bad. It's to bring people together. And even in the case of, like, okay, I have some relatives who are not overtly, virally racist, but maybe
you
they-
sound like you're treading carefully there.
I am. But maybe they are just committed to some old ideas of social structure and tying that in weird way to genetics.
How long should people be allowed to change their perspective to a more desirable and unifying perspective? How long should people be allowed to transform and metamorph themselves into a...
That's case by case.
Correct.
People grow and change at different rates.
Agreed.
All I can do is
So?
like, say, just the idea like, oh no, I don't hate, like I have relatives who might say, I don't hate black people. I just think that they're not as, good. Or they're not as, whatever your thing is, they're not as whatever. They don't, measure up however you decide to arbitrarily think people can measure up.
It's hard for you to describe. It's really funny.
It is. I don't really connect with it, but it's like, okay,
Sure.
the white supremacy thing is like, no, there's, the black people are capable and smart and good people and empathetic. They're just not as capable and smart and empathetic as white people are. For why? What's your...
I've never heard anybody say that, though. I never heard racism put so blatantly. It's always disguised as, and here's the thing: I've experienced something that could be considered racism.
Okay.
But when people find out I'm Filipino, I've had people make fun of eating with your hands. I've had people making the subject of conversation my ethnicity.
Right.
So, yeah, I could hold a lot of people in contempt for that behavior, but it's what we do. Mm-hmm. It's how we see the world. We're like, oh, you're Filipino, but you've been raised by wolves. What the fuck is happening with you? What do you think of the world? They want to know. Mm-hmm. It's just curiosity.
Yeah.
In most cases, and ignorance, but at some point, you just take responsibility for what you're aware of, which is what I aim to do, which is my own ignorance.
Yeah.
I've said to people things that have to do with their skin color. Mm-hmm. I've said to people homophobic terminology for the sake of whatever I thought I was doing, good or bad, right? But it's controversial, and I understand. It's not my subject to throw around.
Right.
Freedom of speech, yes. But, negligent behavior, negligent communication, selfish thinking, those are things worth considering before you access your freedom to speak.
Right.
That's just how I believe. And I don't think everybody has to believe it like me. Mm-hmm. But, if you're willing to hear me, that's what I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what's important here. We need to be able to hear each other for what we are saying. I need to take whatever you're telling me, strip away all my preconceptions about what that is, about the subject matter, about what you're saying, and take it at face value. And then, the conversation that follows would be an analysis of that. So it's like, okay, if I have relatives who, for whatever reason, think that because of genetics, they are better than other people of other genetic backgrounds, it's like, is that just something that you were taught and you never questioned before? And now that people are questioning it, you're feeling like this thing that you've believed your whole life for no real reason. It was never challenged until now, but now these racial superiority beliefs are being challenged. And it's like, okay, now you have a decision to make. Are you going to do the analysis, the self-analysis, and the soul-searching that one needs to do when they're confronted with these things in themselves? Or are you going to ignore it and otherize the social justice warriors and vilify the social justice warriors for daring to say that Black Lives Matter more?
Yeah.
Like, no one's saying more. That's what I hear, though. That's what I hear when I hear Black Lives Matter. It's like Black Lives Matter more. They don't. All lives matter. It's like, that's not...
Well, but everybody to each their own in terms of how they go about learning life's lessons.
Yeah.
I chose ignorance at first.
Yeah.
It's
easier.
I
it's
said,
easier.
and until I heard it spoken by someone else, this ideology I had, that if you're from a terrible situation and you can't get out of it by your own mental faculty or lack of resources or what have you, then shame on you for not trying. That was kind of my perspective.
Right.
And then, I don't know, something cracked open and I realized I don't know the history of my city.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Sacramento. So I started digging in a little bit. I started learning about what happened to the Japanese downtown. I started learning about why Oak Park is the way it is.
Yeah.
And I started learning about how business opportunities have been limited to people based on an old idea of cultural differences
Yeah.
or aesthetic, deficiencies or whatever the fuck people were
Right.
concerned with. And it's just something I have to accept about somebody I'm related to, including myself. I'm related to who I was back in 1985. I'm related to who I was 10 years ago. And I can't completely discard what that person is,
Right.
all the ignorance included. All I can do is appreciate what all that ignorance really taught me and what all the things I perceive as negative in my life give me reference of is what could be good or bad,
Right.
And I just think the way of the future is to just look at culture differently. Look at things differently. Look at money differently. Look at brains and thought, schools of thought,
Yeah.
trade schools and shit like that.
We need to start thinking of money as a means to an end, not the end. The accumulation of wealth for what purpose? Are you doing a major project like Elon Musk and giving the world an uncompromising sports car that is fully electric? Or are you making it easier for people to fucking impulse buy from their couch by giving them a listening device that you can then make more money off of them with?
Well, you're not responsible for people who are asleep. You're not. You're in the world awake and conducting your energy.
Yeah.
Those people are recharging. What they do in the miracle of awakening is up to them. That's the thing about conservatism that is universal, whether we fucking like it or not. When you wake up with your thoughts in mind and the curves of reality sort of come into fruition,
Yeah.
you are that moment. And nothing else is really true.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Even a baby. I'm so sad if a baby gets thrown out in the woods, but if it fucking survives, I want to know what the fuck that baby knows.
Yeah. Because that is an
Right.
experience that other people haven't got.
Right? So no one can throw the baby out. No one can throw the fucking baby out. You just drink that fucking bath water so you can tell the difference between your own piss and fucking water.
Yeah.
What's making you grow? What nutrition is going into your mind?
Yeah.
What are you paying attention to? Don't let you become the commercial.
Right.
I think that's why I've put some spaces like, I don't want to repeat that shit. Of course they know how to be positive. Who the
Right.
fuck needs to sell positivity anymore?
No, we need to sell analysis. I think is more important.
Yep.
Like, okay, you're feeling shitty about this and you're expressing shitty about this. Let's do it. Do the expression. Let's talk about that expression. Let's talk about why you went there. The why you go negative with whatever this. Was it for the laughs? Yeah. That's where a lot of, I was thinking about, again, like how people interpret humor. Like 10 years ago, we're hanging out at your place, we're drinking. You're leaving some drunk messages. We're all rolling with laughter. The person who's getting the message, they're not having that experience. Now, why is that? What is it?
I have an answer
Okay.
from my own perspective.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I thrust myself into people's personal space on a regular basis, more so back in the days you're referring to. I came from that old world of this is how you are to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was polluted with some other bad ideas,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I didn't quite understand it. I'm not ignoring the responsibility I have.
Right.
I take full ownership of that douchiness that I get to wear.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I don't blame anybody for having a reaction to me interjecting my own thoughts into their reality that don't build them up.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm calling to tear you down, whether it's for the humor of a joke
Mm-hmm.
or for the sake of camaraderie and the like-minded crowd I'm entertaining, then shame on me for taking advantage of you.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't want you to change your life in a bad way
Yeah.
on something I contributed to. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want that burden.
Right.
And I know that now. I didn't realize that back then. I thought that everybody's responsible for their own mind and their own space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that. So when we go into politics and conservatism, it's like, I think we all need a little hippie in the village. We really do. We need somebody who can see outside the fucking box.
Yeah.
Because that box can be way too constricting and you may be suffocating on fucking ground level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that happen? Because it's a fucking head game. This whole thing is a head game.
Oh yeah.
And all the books and information out there is just for us to try and put some fucking impossible puzzle together.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think the best option is just enjoy the ride and paint some fucking crazy pictures to look at. Those
yeah.
are fun. Andy Warhol fucking did us in. You know, we all walk around. He's a fucking genius. He puts the way he works with the color blue is just out of this world.
Oh man, but if they only knew what everyone gets their 15 minutes actually meant.
Precisely. So it's about the moment.
What would Andy Warhol have to say about all the reality TV?
I think,
Or was that like, he's like, yeah, I knew this was coming. I knew it would happen. Eventually you get tired of seeing what people have set up and seeing pre-planned stories, and you want to see what's real. And as soon as everyone has a camera, and maybe he saw something about the, democratization of technology, where, cameras are expensive now, but they're going to get cheap. And once they're cheap enough, everyone's going to have one, and everyone has a story to tell. And then, boom, 30, 40 years later, 50 years later, reality TV is like the thing that everyone is watching. I stopped watching TV altogether for 10 years because of it.
Yeah. Well, so what's funny about those sort of cultural shifts is somewhere in there is somebody gaining a great benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And they are related to somebody who needs somebody who is getting great benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Benefits alone, those people who have good jobs that offer good benefits. It's like, it's funny how we take things for granted until we just don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the great thing about the world as I see it now is I didn't understand what pain I was causing that I could have stopped
Mm-hmm.
until I was willing to hear other people tell me their stories of the pains that they've had to live through
Right.
face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's controversial in that it's personal.
Right.
But that's what I mean about everybody I've talked to in the podcast is like, I think about them in a way like they're family.
Right.
I carry them close to me because they brought me to the light at the end of a tunnel.
Yeah. You share an experience. You got some more understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that could be a dead horse at some point. I just blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Well, there we go. I think that's a
You good?
good one.
Fuck, man. That's more than good. That's, let's see how long we went. 2 hours and 3 minutes. Yeah. I still have the last episode we did to put out there.
Yeah.
But hey, it's your show now. So lead us out and I'll get your music going. Yeah.
Well, folks, had a good conversation with Mike. Might have more. We recorded this the day before the election. We'll see what happens after. Hope to hear from you all on the other side.
Peace.
I'm just a wandering nomad out on the interstate. Eventually, all these roads just end up looking the same. just